for the $8,000 one, it was a contract that I had uh, priced at 10,000, and their budget didn't allow. So they offered me they offered me 8,000, and I went with it.
Welcome to UndocuStartup by Juan Maya Hernandez.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for joining this collaboration with Dreamers in Tech. I'll give you a quick rundown of how things are going to work. We're going to do small introductions of UndocuStartup and Dreamers in Tech. And then from there, we're going to jump into 20 minutes of questions. And then the last 30 minutes will be up to y'all to ask questions to Christian as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. My name is Juan Maya Hernandez. I'm the founder of UndocuStartup. We are the leading entrepreneurship program for undocumented students. And I would love for Ari to introduce herself. She is from Dreamers in Tech. So Ari, do you want to introduce yourself and you're gonna say?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Ari. I currently work with Dreamers in Tech, which is a national community of dreamers, allies, educators, tech enthusiasts, all with the same goal of trying to support the undocumented community and the dreamer community that is working in tech or is pursuing a career in tech. And we're really excited to be here today and to do this first collaboration with UndocuStartup. We love all things entrepreneurship, and we know this is a field that a lot of people would like to learn more about. So yeah, we're really excited to have this first session, and we hope you can enjoy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ari. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. Christian, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your business and maybe a fun fact about you, if you're comfortable with that. And then we're going to jump into the questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and welcome everyone. My name is Christian Espinosa. I use he, him, his pronouns. And I have a long journey. I did my bachelor's at UCLA in computer science and sociology. Most folks are like, why both? And I respond, why not? I did my master's at the University of Redlands in higher education administration with a focus on student affairs, and currently on my final year as a PhD student in urban educational leadership and policy at Claremont Graduate University. And I am the founder and manager of Navigated Solutions, which is a consultancy firm that mostly exists online, that supports those who are first-gen undocumented students through web solutions. So I work with higher ed institutions in creating solutions that supports undocumented youth and folks who are pursuing higher ed. Oh, and fun fact, goodness, I I mean, I love going hiking. I've gone to the Grand Canyon several times, and I wish I could go back.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Christian. So I guess like take me back to the moment when you had this business idea to now you're doing like website development, based on our check-in. What was your initial business idea and how has that shifted over time to now that you do more web solutions?
So Navigated Solutions was birthed from my own experience navigating higher education as an undocumented person without DACA, which poses a lot more challenges. And so my idea initially was to provide workshops and presentations for students like me on getting scholarships, on identifying internships and fellowships, on advocating for themselves. I pretty much navigated school with
120 undocumented students, 6 different states, one day to launch your business. We started UndocuStartup in California, but we knew that our impact had to go in more than one state. So introducing the UndocuStartup Tour, we are bringing our flagship entrepreneurship bootcamp to 6 different states for the next few months.
$26 in investment.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and we also got one client.
Like last minute, I like send messages to like the people I know, and I just got like sent 60.
Ooh. There's only 120 spots, so apply now at www.undocustartup.com/tour. Again, www.undocustartup.com/tour. And I'll see you on the other side.
Without DACA since UCLA, and to this day, I don't have any student loans. So I thought, maybe I can do something with this and help others. But there was challenges with that. A lot of the schools were not working with me because a lot of the services that I were offering through Navigated Solutions back in 2023 when I registered my business um, was work that already exists within higher education institutions. So I was getting a lot of pushback saying, well, why should we hire you to provide a scholarship workshop when our financial aid office already does that work? So I was competing with the work that already exists there. And so then I had to figure out a way to change the language or change the services that I offered through Navigated. So then I started thinking, well, I have this computer science degree from UCLA that I never used, and I didn't really know how to use it back then. But now what I do with it is I create websites for institutions that don't have a dedicated page for either undocumented students, LGBTQ folks, anyone who is part of a marginalized community. I write proposals, I pitch the idea to the institution, typically to like the vice president or anyone who works within DEI, and then have conversations with them, schedule meetings. And so I produce websites for Claremont Graduate University, Pomona College, UCLA, and the other nonprofits that have worked with me is El Consulado de Mexico has been also a customer. So yes, the work that I've done was shifted from workshops to now web development, which really has been more beneficial because although I haven't completely scratched off workshops, I do partner with First Gen Empower to do workshops on know your rights, on scholarships and things like that. So I do partnership with them and I get paid to do that work. So it's not completely off the books, just not what it's not just what I advertise, but what really brings in the money and what I've really most enjoyed has been web development because I get to do that from my house on my own terms for a higher pay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love how you mentioned about how you had to transition because you saw a different need than when you first intended to provide. And I think that just shows how important it is to, be open when and be an entrepreneur. Another question that we had is, what's one thing you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey that, now it seems like kind of obvious, but maybe then, it kind of didn't make sense just yet.
I think at the beginning of my journey, I thought I had to had everything figured out. I have to have a website, I have to have a Instagram page, I have to have a list of names of people I can reach out to, and that's just simply not true. Actually, my website, navigatedsolutions.com, has been down for a couple of months. I'm a single member LLC, which means I operate and manage everything on my own, from emails to Instagram DMs to actually facilitating the work. So I haven't paid attention to my website, and the host expired because I didn't pay for it. And I just ignored it because I've been so busy with my PhD that I thought that that's something that needed to be like ongoing. But now that it's been down for several months, I still get customers through word of mouth. So the idea that I thought I had to have everything from the website to a list of folks is false. Like you don't have to have a website at all. You can just simply start doing the work that you're doing and starting on your own backyard and reaching out to the people that you do know. So because I went through UCLA, University of Redlands, Claremont, the Claremont colleges, is multiple of them. I started there, reaching out to the people that I do know without having a website. I went on Canva, created a one pager of my services, sent off the PDF. Like this is the services that I offered with my phone number. Also, you don't have to have a business number. Another thing, like I thought I had to have a business line, like everything business, but no. The only thing that you need is the idea, uh, the skill, and a business account, so you get paid, but you don't have to have a business line or a website or anything like that, anything fancy. You can start right away.
No, I love that. And I think you mentioned a lot of like big important things. But and I know you mentioned your grad school and pursuing a PhD, a few times. How do you balance doing your PhD and then having a business on the side at the same time? You mentioned that you're doing both. It's kind of like a side hustle, but I guess for students or people that are watching this recording, looking at, hey, I want to start a business, but I have all these other responsibilities. How do you pick and choose what to prioritize on a given day? Like, is it the project or is it your PhD? How do you balance, and what tips would you give around balancing both?
I think everything comes into place. I said just do it, and then you'll find the time to figure out things. It's kind of like Tetris. Things will just fall into place. For my PhD, it is made for working adults. Many graduate programs are made for working professionals. So, for example, when I was doing my master's at the University of Redlands, the classes were like Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 6 to 9. So you can still work your 9 to 5 and then have class in the evening. For Claremont, the classes are Fridays and Saturday evenings. So you still have the time to fit in your work schedule if you want to work a 9 to 5 and still finish your coursework in the evenings. So it depends on the program. Many of them, like I said, when it comes to graduate programs, whether masters or PhDs, are made for working adults. So that kind of works in your favor. Other things that I have going on is like internships and fellowships that I continuously pursue. Most of them are now that since COVID hit, a lot of things have been moving to working from home. So you can fit in your business with any fellowship that you may be pursuing because of the work from home module. Now, Navigator Solutions is not something that I'm doing full time. It's something that I do part time. And I say this because when I get bookings, I don't always accept all of them. I have to pick and choose what I have capacity to do and what I don't have capacity to do. So for those of you who are trying to pursue a full-time business model, you can totally do that. It just depends on your preference. What is it that you have capacity to do and what is it that you don't want to be doing? But I could very well be doing a full-time business, but then I wouldn't have time to do my personal things, going out with family, going out, things like that. So it just depends on your preference, but it can be done. I think that you just have to get started and things will just fall into place. So don't think that it's not doable if you have different projects going on.
That's really important, and I love how you mentioned that now you've grown your business to now being in a position where you can choose the type of work that you do, right? That you get to kind of have more flexibility on the work that you do. And a little bit on that note on balancing different aspects of your life and your businesses. What resources or support systems have been the most helpful to you during this entire journey, right? From starting from an idea to an actual business and now to running it and maintaining it and of course growing it.
I think what's been helpful, it's personal networks. I tell everyone, including myself, if you are undocumented, especially without DACA or any other form of work authorization, it's really important to stay connected to your community and rely on them. I've had the opportunity to go through my schooling, bachelor's, master's, and now PhD that I built a network already. And so I went back to that network. I went back to UCLA and I said, hey, I started a business. Can you help me share out this flyer with the alumni network at UCLA? Went back to the University of Redlands. I've attended like alumni mixers or class reunions. And even with the Claremont colleges, because Claremont Graduate University is a member of the Seven Seas, you have Herbie, you have Scripps, Pomona, McKenna. It works in my favor that it gets a large community of colleges that are private. If I'm connected to one, then I'm really connected to all the seven C's. So that's how I've been able to also get like customers through the Claremont College's administrators. So I think what's been helpful has been relying on personal networks, tapping into even like friends from like high school or anywhere you meet friends, just let them know about your idea. Be prepared to have like a one pager or a flyer of what you're trying to get support. It's not just about like, I need help with this. And then for them to say, I'll help you, but then for you not be ready to be helped, right? If you need help with an advertising a flyer, then you should have that on you so that you're able to share it right away. Um, and other like just business groups like Startup, just kind of reaching out for questions like what does it look like to be a single member LLC? What business structure do I need to have? There's like S corporate, C corporate, nonprofit, multiple member LLC. Um, my bank, I use a small business bank called Lili, Lili, and they have resources on how to file your taxes. So tax season, it's now. The deadline was yesterday. So I'm able to like tap into like resources through my bank about like what do I need to claim tax deductions? Does that mean like mileage? I drove my Toyota Prius for like business. How do I claim that? Um, I bought a computer to do my website design. How do I claim that? I bought technology. I bought like Microsoft Word or Google Suite or Canva Pro, Zoom Pro, whatever is it that you use to do the work through your business, you can claim those as tax deductibles. And so I use resources from Lily to be able to like know how to claim and how to go about it for tax season.
No, I love that, and you mentioned a lot of great resources. I'm gonna include them when I send the recording of this. Christian, I know you attended one of our programs. You also attended a program at Pre-House Dreamers, and I think you also been using other resources that are like for the community. What has been like the biggest thing that you've learned, either like by being part of all the programs combined or like by any individual program? And would you recommend like a specific program for a specific type of entrepreneur as they are starting out within the community? Because like I think there's the Immigrants Rising one, there's probably like Pre-Health Dreamers, obviously there's the UndocuStartup one, but do you think specifically for a specific group, given that you've been part of all the
Yeah.
programs?
Yeah, I've been in quite a few spaces and I've take different knowledge pieces from everywhere. Two you mentioned, one of them, I'll start with the small business. Uh, it's called the Orange County / Inland Empire Small Business Center, and they serve Southern California. Not sure if they serve Northern California, but if they don't, I'm sure that you can book an appointment with them and they'll be able to refer you to a North Cal center. But what they do is that they also help you like um, uh, polish your business plan. So if you have a business plan, or maybe you don't have a business plan and you need to get started on that, you need a template. They connect you or they send you templates so that you're able to set up a business plan. But the unique thing about them is that if you go through them, they waive your $750 business registration, which is a one-time fee that you pay every year to remain in good standing for your LLC. However, first-time entrepreneurs or business owners, regardless of your business structure, are entitled to a fee waiver that waives your $750 cost for your first year. And they're able to guide you through that process. I didn't know that, so I didn't go through them. But that's something that it's available to folks who are first-time LLC owners. And then with Immigrants Rising, they have Spark, or now it used to be called Undocu Hustle, but they rebranded to Spark. They provide similar services, but specifically to undocumented folks, those who don't have a Social Security number. And part of Immigrants Rising Spark is that they also offered a seed grant, so which is SEED. It is a grant up to $10,000. So $5,000 go to first-time business owners, and the $10,000 grant is for those who are more seasoned. They define seasoned as someone who's been in business for 10 years or longer. So I was able to apply for the seed grant through Immigrants Rising back in 2023 and receive the $5,000 grant. So that's something that I went through them, and I went through their modules, which are like a series of YouTube videos that taught me about like, do I need business insurance? If your business is about like a taco truck, then you would need to know about zoning, like where can I park? And you have to have a permit to be able to park there. So they got you through those steps. With PH dreamers or pre-health dreamers, they're more focused on health, although they're open to anyone. But if you are a student who wants to open a business around healthcare, so maybe you're like nursing or public health, then you would be able to reach out to pre-health dreamers and they are able to tell you like, oh, if you want to open your own practice as a nurse or some other kind of healthcare professional, what kind of licenses you need in the state of California. Or maybe you're not in California, maybe you're in like Alabama. Uh, what does it look like to open up a business in Alabama as an undocumented person? So they have more knowledge on that. And so I went through their process, not necessarily for healthcare because I don't offer healthcare services, but I got to learn a lot about like healthcare policy and advocacy that I've used in my with my navigated solutions services. So those are the three that come to mind, but there's been a couple others that I've used.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a great sort of overview of resources. And I just want to emphasize what you said at the beginning of like it's your biggest sort of resource is sometimes the people you know. So it's great to get out there, go to networking events or simply to support groups because you never know when you can meet someone that you guys can build something together. They know about a resource that you might not be aware of, but you may need. So that's really important. Thank you so much, Christian, for bringing that up. Another question that we want to talk about is we know that being an entrepreneur brings a lot of challenges, right? But we were wondering what would you consider has been your biggest challenge so far, and sort of the strategy that the strategy that you took to overcome that.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was originally my plan to offer like higher ed services. I thought it would be really cool for me to like offer scholarship workshops to students since I've been able to pay for my schooling through scholarships and I haven't collected any student debt, like literally $0 paid into my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD. So I thought maybe I'm doing something right and I can share this knowledge with people so that those who are interested in pursuing PhDs are able to like not pay out of pocket, especially without DACA. So for me to hear like, oh, we can't work with you because our school already offers workshops, was like really disheartening. So I had to quickly think of a way to restructure my business model and offer different services. So that was the most challenging aspect of starting a business. So you would need to think about, what kind of services that you want to offer, who is your audience, and making sure that whatever services you offer doesn't conflict with your audience. So if your audience is like LGBTQ students, but your customers are LGBTQ centers, and you're saying, I want to offer workshops on like how to support LGBTQ folks, but then you're also catering that to LGBTQ centers, they already do that work. So you're conflicting your services with something that already exists. So really think about how are your services different from everything else. One of the things that I think about is like barbershops. They're everywhere. You can go to a barbershop anywhere, but people have different hairstyles, people have different pay. Um, there's different things that makes them unique and not offer the same thing as other barbers. Maybe the location, maybe the other ones are too far. Uh, so think about like that, like you are a barber offering a service to your community. How can you make that service something that your community needs? So I was able to, I guess, resolve that issue by thinking like that, like, okay, um, so my work is around supporting undocumented people or really any student that comes from a marginalized background. But it's not going to be through scholarships. So maybe I can do like web development, and in those websites, I can create a portal where students can like apply for scholarships. So then that's kind of what I've done. Now, the other thing that I've leveraged was students come to me for help. Sometimes they're like, oh, I heard of you and I want to apply for scholarships. I don't work directly with students because then it would mean I would have to charge them for helping them. And that's something that I don't do. I don't charge students ever. So what I do is like if I have 5 students that reach out to me from like UCLA and they're asking me to do something for them, then I leverage that and I go to UCLA and I say, well, I have 5 students from your campus that need help with this. So clearly you're not offering this service to them, but I can offer it to you so that they can get that service. And then I get paid through UCLA instead of the students. So you gotta be like creative sometimes on the way that you approach business.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Christian. I think now we're gonna move it towards the audience. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and then we'll call on you, or you can also put it in the chat. Any questions to Christian? Any questions? Yes, Emiliano, go for it.
All right. Well, thank you. It's great to hear your story. I've had a similar story myself. Where do you see yourself in the future with your business, especially with this transition period that we're going through right now with the politics wise? Where do you see yourself business?
I see my business expanding. After my PhD, I'm planning on going to law school. And if I were to go to law school, that's 3 years. 3 years fly by quick. And after receiving my law degree, probably in like immigration law, then that's something that I can use to expand Navigated Solutions. So now instead of just providing web solutions or web development, I could also actually provide legal advice and open my own practice. Um, Maybe we'll have to rebrand the same way that I rebranded the first time when I went from doing higher ed services to more like web development. I had a rebrand there. So I might have to rebrand 3 years from now. But I definitely see my business growing and I'll probably have more time, more capacity to do it full time. So um, I'd probably like be able to like double my revenue.
Awesome.
Thank you, Emiliano. Anybody else has a question for Christian? Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Something that I guess I'm intrigued about since you've pivoted a few times and you also plan on pivoting. I'm wondering if your definition of a success or successful business has changed. I feel like we have different expectations when we start, but then as you kind of go into the whole journey, that might change. So I'm just wondering if how that has been for you or what you consider success for yourself in your business.
Mm. I haven't really thought about that much. I think most people equate success with like money. If you're making X amount of money, let's say 100K. If you're making 100K a year, then you're successful. Um, I can tell you right now that I'm not making 100K. I'm not doing this full time. I think in 2024 when I filed my taxes, I made it wasn't a lot. It's probably like maybe like 25K. Um, this year I just filed my taxes yesterday. I can't remember the number. It was a lot more money though. Um, so I mean, most people that work full time with a bachelor's are probably making around 40 to 60K, and that's being generous. On average, let's say 50. I think most of my friends who are like just working with bachelor's degrees are making 50K working full time 9 to 5. So if my business brought me $30,000 working part time, I think arguably you can say that's successful. But to me, I don't really determine my success based on the money that I have. I determine it based on what I'm able to do. Like I'm able to work from home and I have to drive around to do workshops when I can just send a proposal via online, via email to a customer and get paid. One of the largest contracts that I got was from Claremont graduate who gave me $10,000 to work on their first Undocu website. And it was a 2 month contract, but I got it done in 2 weeks. I developed the website in 2 weeks, so technically I got paid 10,000 for the 2 weeks that I did, and the rest of the time I was just kind of chilling, getting feedback. Um, so to me that would be that my definition of success, being able to do your own thing, your own way, at your own time.
No, I love that. Anybody else has a question? Raise your hand.
If I may add,
Yes.
I totally agree with that, what Christian said. I've shared my life is very similar to what he has gone through. I mean, I'm way older than maybe you guys are. I also had no papers before DACA for many years, and I started a company at that time, consulting company. Um, before I was able to get a social security through DACA and able to get back into the tech industry. But yeah, sometimes there's going to be months where or years where you don't make a lot of money, and that doesn't mean you're not successful. If you keep at it and continue to work. I mean, now I make over six figures for the past few years, and have multi-million-dollar net worth, and it's possible. You just have to hustle and find ways. One thing I would add is not what you know, it's not who you know, but I think it's who knows you, right? For example, I know Christian mentioned that he doesn't have a website or he doesn't have a phone number. The same way, like even myself, like I could always find jobs because of the contacts I have, not because of my profile on LinkedIn or whatever. It's just who knows you and what you could offer to other folks. That's a key as well. So good. Awesome.
Thank you for sharing. That was really insightful. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, I don't know, Juan, we've had like two questions. Maybe we can go out, ask them in the meantime. And then if people have any, then they can just put them in the chat and we'll ask them. Um, I guess one other question that we had is if there has been anything about being a business owner that surprised you, that you kind of, you know, that you weren't expecting until you were there.
Mm, I guess I assumed that it would be a lot more um, difficult to get started. And it was, it's always the thought of like, I don't know how to get started. That's like the most, the biggest factor that holds you back. But once you get started, it's honestly not that difficult. I was like, how do I write a proposal? I don't know how to do that. And I think now with AI too, a lot of things have gotten a lot more easy. So I leverage whatever I can find, including AI, to develop my proposals, my contracts. So it was surprising to me that it's actually not that difficult to get started. You just need to get started.
I guess I'll jump in with another question. So I know you mentioned that like you've landed like your biggest contract has been like 10,000 and you've had contracts of like 8,000 as well, I believe when we last had our check-in. But before that, for your workshops, were you getting paid that amount? And I guess like what have you learned as you shifted, the pricing from what you were getting paid before and now that like you're landing like 8,000, $10,000 contracts? What have you learned about either sales, about writing proposals, about the service, about the business model? What has been the biggest learning?
Luckily for me, everything I've done has been paid. I know other first-time entrepreneurs, they've had to do free work to kind of build their portfolio or build up credibility, um, or to just get get known, right? You see it all the time, sometimes on social media, like people who are like cleaning, they're like cleaners, right? maybe like backyard work. They go door to door knocking and they're like, "Hey, can I clean your backyard?" And the people are like, "For like, I'm not interested." Like, "Oh, it's free." And they're like, "Okay." So they clean up like backyards for free. I didn't have to do that, and I'm thankful for that because that's a lot of work to do for free. So my first contract with what was with LMU, Loyola Marymount University. And it was a $300 contract to do a 1 hour workshop on life after college. Like, what does life look like after you graduate with your bachelor's? And so it was a 1 hour workshop, well, 45-minute workshop with a 15-minute Q&A, and it was $300. And I had to drive out to LMU. You know, I, I didn't get reimbursed for gas, something that I had to like keep track for like tax season. But we started there with $300 workshops, and then I did uh, another similar workshop at Pomona, and that was $400. But typically, I was looking at $300 to $500 workshops for 1 hour, and I would get maybe 2 to 3 bookings a month. So that's say, at most $1,500 per month. And it was okay money, but $1,500 doesn't always pay all the bills depending on how you live. And that was also time I had to take to drive to those places, set up the PowerPoint, that kind of thing. Now with the rebrand of web development, I don't have to drive anywhere. I can just do a Zoom intake, and uh, I'm able to just talk to IT from the institution, get their login information, and then do my work. All from like the comfort of my home without having to drive anywhere. Now, I was looking at other web developers and how much they charge. One of the things I didn't want to build my own website because like I don't have time for this. So I was looking at someone to build my website, and I talked to 3 different people, and the least expensive web developer was charging me like per page. It was like depending on what you're asking for, let's say the homepage or the landing page, they were like, we'll charge you $400 to create your homepage. It'll include X amount of things, and it'll include 2 edits. So if you don't like the first one, you have a second edit. After that, then it will be another $500. So I was looking at the way that they set up their own like payment thing. Uh, but at the most expensive one, to do a full brand of website that includes unlimited tabs, unlimited links, et cetera, it was around $5,500 to build a full-blown website. I was like, that's a lot of money that you're I had to pay for a website. So then after that, I was like, maybe I already know how to do this. I'm just not doing it because I don't have the time. Um, but I used that. I used those consultations that I met with other engineers to be able to set up my own pricing. So then I put a price tag at something and then negotiate it. What I also learned is that a lot of people, especially those who are not in tech, they don't know how things work, whether it's easy or not. To me, web design comes easy. Um, but for the untrained eye, it doesn't. And so I double my services. I say, okay, well, instead of 5,000 for this, 'cause I think it's worth 5,000, I'll just like put it at 10,000. And someone who doesn't know that that's something that may not even be worth $10,000, they might just agree with it. So I up my services, negotiate down. Um, and that's worked. So for the $8,000 one, it was a contract that I had uh priced at 10,000, and their budget didn't allow. So they offered me 8,000, and I went with it. But really that work, I don't know, to me was like I would have paid like 5,000 and gotten it done in 5K. But to someone who doesn't know, it's like, right? Like a car. You can buy a car for um 30K, but another dealership might have given it to you for 20.
That's awesome. I think we can wrap up with one last question, if that's okay, Juan. One last question we want to ask is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start their own business but feels overwhelmed, unsure, stuck on how to start, like you said earlier? Yeah, how would you advise them to get started and to give into that idea that they've had for a while?
Just get started. You certainly have the resources available to you. I think as someone who doesn't have DACA and I was able to tap into so many resources, I can testify that they do exist and they're there. Um, I named three earlier, right? I think you can start with the Inland Empire Orange County Small Business Center. They help anyone regardless of immigration status, and they can help you with templates, things like that to get started. Put your vision into paper, and then once in paper, they can guide you through the actual registration process and waiving that $750 fee. So you can start there, but uh, just get the ball rolling. I had this idea since I graduated UCLA in 2018, and I was scared to do anything, partly because I thought, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, what am I supposed to do about it? But it worked, and most likely your idea will work. And I'm connected with other entrepreneurs who have different kind of businesses. Some are like mine, where it's more consulting work, and others are more like physical spaces where they have like a physical store you can walk in and buy stuff. And I have a friend who started a truck or truck business and it was working out for them. And they had the same fear, like, what if I fail? Or what if it doesn't work? But then again, that's life. I mean, I went through a computer science degree at UCLA thinking the same thing. Like, what if I don't major in computer science and I get kicked out of the program because it's really demanding? It worked. And then I asked myself the same thing when I would apply for masters and PhDs. What if I don't get in? But then I did. So it's just a matter of actually starting. And if you fail, then you fail, but it doesn't mean anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christian, and thank you everybody that was able to ask questions. We're gonna wrap it up right there, and but we really appreciate you all attending this fireside chat, and hopefully we can do more. But definitely, I'll send a recording, and I will send a follow-up email. But thank you everybody, thank you Christian, thank you Ari, thank you Emiliano, Anna, Edgar that stayed until the end. We really appreciate it.
Welcome to UndocuStartup by Juan Maya Hernandez.